Hi. Today it's all about getting the star of the show into the main focus. In this song, it's the vocals, but it could just as well be any lead instrument. Here's where we left off last time.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering.
After taking the vocals out of isolation and putting them into some musical context, it's much easier now to make some mixing decisions. First, I want to bring both vocal elements into play now and give me some headroom in the mixer. The main vocals are my loudest part. The ad-libs shall be a bit lower in volume, followed by the pad and the bass, which has already a lot of energy.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering. Lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way.
Should be fine for now. Everything is clearly hearable, dominated by the main voice. As these vocals came off a sample pack, it's obvious that it was already more processed than if you would have just recorded a singer 5 minutes ago. In my case here, I don't have to bother with any pitch correction or cutting out any low-end rumble. Neither do I have to deal with different takes to choose the right bits for the final line. Nevertheless, there are some parts I like to change. I like to create a quite dense break section, and for this task the vocals are still too dynamic. The differences between the loudest and quietest parts are too big for my taste. Second, the vocals are playing always together with the pad and the bass. Because of that, I will not need the complete frequency spectrum as it was recorded. Leaving it as it is now would cause too much overlapping with especially the pad sound, and would make it much harder to jail them together. I start with an EQ.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering. Lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way. Finally, I can see what I want. I see with you.
For me, the sound in the lower mids was too intense. To bring in more clarity, I reduced the energy in the lower octave with the high pass and band 4, and raised the energy in the higher octaves. This sounds quite thin at the moment in direct A-B comparison, but it will make more sense afterwards. As I said before, the dynamic range of the vocals is too strong for my taste, so I load in compressor. I raise the release to smooth out the volume changes, but I don't want to pronounce any starts of the words. For an immediate processing, as soon as the vocal hit the threshold, I set the attack to 0. To prevent any click and pop sounds, I raise the look-ahead delay to give the compressor more time to react. The ratio is set to a more aggressive 4:1, and during the playback I will set the threshold to what I like.
You shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering. Lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way. Finally,
This is fine for me. To make the changes I did so far a bit more clear, I just rendered out the vocals. Here, for example, you can see very clearly how even the level is now compared to the lower waveform. Here is another good place to look at. In general, the quieter parts were brought up while the extreme loud parts were brought down. Doing something like this or not is of course first a matter of taste, and second a matter of the type of music you produce. While what I did here is quite standard in most types of electronic dance music, this would be an absolute no-go in, for example, classic music or ballads, where higher dynamics are very welcome. The vocals are still completely dry. I like this break being dreamy and melodic, so I go with my favorite preset for a long and dense reverb, the Eventide cathedral smooth response of the convolver.
In the darkness, you shine for me.
This reverb sounds really nice, but it's too long. I go to the volume tab and let it fade out much quicker.
In the darkness, you shine for me.
Better? But of course the reverb is just overwhelming and pushing the vocals more into the background. My problem is now how to balance it out. If I reduce the wetness, the vocals get clearer, but I lose as well the nice tail in the gaps.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering.
So adjusting the wetness doesn't bring me to where I want. I will go with a send instead, so I leave the wetness at the default and set the dry level to 0. Because this reverb will be unique for the main vocals and cannot be shared with others, I don't waste any mixer track for setting up a send, but use Patcher directly on this channel. I hold Shift while replacing the convolver with Patcher. This loads the same instance of the convolver I had before into it. Connecting the input directly to the output brings me back to the same I had before.
In the darkness, you shine for me.
Instead of messing with wetness and other plugin parameters, I go for sidechaining. I load the compressor into the wet signal and prepare it to get sidechained by the dry incoming signal. For a smooth compression curve, I raise again the release and watch what happens when I lower the threshold now.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering. Lost and wandering.
While she sings, just the reverb signal gets pushed down, making her voice as clear as it did after reducing the wetness. But in the gaps, the reverb signal comes back in again and fills out the empty spaces.
I can see.
Now I got both. My clear voices not washed out by the reverb, but the nice long tail in the silent parts. But even with this method, it was a bit too much. Now I can work with the wetness by reducing the level of the incoming signal just for the reverb, and as you would do with a send knob on a channel.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering. Lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are.
But there is still a little problem left. I insert an instance of span in the pad channel and send a sidechain signal from the vocals to it. The download link for span is in the description, as it is a free plugin everybody should have. Now I prepare span to show me the spectrums of the vocals and the one from the pad at the same time.
In the darkness, you shine for me. Oh, uncovering, lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way. Finally, I can see what I want, I see with you.
You can see that they mostly overlap, but in general without causing any bigger trouble. But from time to time, the vocals have some heavy spikes around 650 Hz range. As these spikes just occur on some words, it would be wrong and an overkill to cut out this range permanently with a normal EQ. This is a perfect example for the use of a dynamic EQ. I used TDR Nova here. Again, the link is in the description. To not let the vocals bleed into the bass range, I set again a high pass, just to catch some signal which perhaps could be added by the reverb. The second band though, I set to this range where the problem sits, and instead of cutting out this range all the time, I activate the dynamic feature, do some settings to my liking, and adjust the threshold again during playback.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering, lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way. Finally, I can see what I want, I see with you.
The action was clearly visible. The more only this frequency range went above the threshold, the plugin reduced the level for this range only to reduce the spikes I had before. Now the ad-libs. Again, they are far too dynamic for this section. But as the quieter parts are already fine in volume, I let the compressor just reduce the louder parts.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering, lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way. Finally, I can see what I want, I see with you.
Next, some reverb again. As they belong together, I put them more or less into the same room.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering, lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way.
Here I put the EQ after the reverb to affect all together.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering, lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way. Finally, I can see what I want, I see with you.
Again, I want less lows and more high content. The adlibs shall add to the main vocals. I dropped the lows even more and chose an even higher range of the vocals to raise them to bring more air and clarity. Last but not least, I like to sidechain the pad sound just a little bit to the vocals and the adlibs. The voices are the main part. The pad is just a supporting part and has to stay behind them. Little details like this always are a great help to make mixing much easier. The main vocals I sent to the pad channel before, and now I do the same with the adlibs. On the pad channel, I insert a patcher with my compressor. I add a second input for the compressor and activate the nodes for the vocal and the adlib sends. This time I use less aggressive settings with longer attack and release, less ratio, and a softer knee.
In the darkness, you shine for me. A world in shadow, uncovering. Lost and wandering, falling through the clouds, but there you are to lead the way.
As you could see, I have set the threshold that it barely reduces anything. But here and there, when the vocals get louder, I gain 1 or 2 decibels of headroom. This makes the sidechain not noticeable at all, but as these 3 parts sit all together in the same frequency range, these 1 or 2 decibels help a lot afterwards to reach more loudness without distorting the sound. That's it for today. I saved the project file for my patrons, whom I like to thank again for their great support. Stay tuned for the next part, and thank you for watching.